Hey, didn't I just do an Alice in Wonderland inspired PC Engine game? Honestly, it's kind of astounding that this was released just a few days after Fushigi no Yume no Alice. Of course, Märchen Maze is a completely different kind of game, so if you play them, you can easily tell them apart. But just spotting them on the shelf? Well, I kept getting them confused in my collection. Märchen Maze started out in arcades, and while it had its fans, it was not one of Namco's games that stood the test of time. It's one of those games that just faded away and has almost been entirely forgotten. A couple of key features that you'll notice in the arcade game are its isometric viewpoint and high-pressure timer. I'm bringing up those features because they're completely absent in the PC Engine version. Perspective has shifted to a 3/4 overhead view, and now you can take as much time as you need to on a level. The plot of Märchen Maze is that the Queen of Darkness has taken over Fairy Tale Land. The guardian of Fairy Tale Land is the White Rabbit, and for some reason he needs a little girl to fight the Queen of Darkness. The rabbit takes Alice through the looking glass, and the game is about what Alice found there. There are 9 stages in the game, and your goal on every stage is to march up the screen until you find a little square platform to hop on, and that will take you to a boss arena. Alice's primary weapon are bubbles that she blows, and while you can tap and rapid fire them, you're usually better off charging them up a bit. There are 4 levels of bubble growth, with the first 3 adding damage, and the 4th and strongest passing through enemies. If you hold that charge too long though, the bubble bursts, and then you have to start charging all over again. Another thing to be aware of when you're charging is that if you jump, you'll shoot at the same time. You can't do jumping attacks, at least you'll get something out of it if you have to jump. Most enemies will require a few hits from the smallest bubble, and that's what makes charging those shots so important. For avoiding enemy attacks, Alice can jump, and that's also useful for some platforming. Platforming is a little bit rough here, but I feel that the change to the overhead-ish view makes it relatively easy to get things lined up. The platforms are pretty generous too. I only really had trouble with the platforming after I picked up certain power-ups. One of the most distinctive features about Märchen Maze is how the lives work. You only lose a life when Alice falls off the maze. If you stay on the platforms, you're fine. The catch is that enemies do a huge amount of knockback, and there's not much in the way of invincibility after you get hit. So you might get hit and flung off the level, but if you're positioned just right, and the attack comes from the correct angle, then you might wind up on the platform still. Unless, of course, there was something else where you landed, in which case you get hit again, and then find out where you wind up after that. What this comes down to is, it's possible to survive a hit, but no guarantee. When you run out of balloons, it's game over. There are no continues here. That's resulted in Märchen Maze having a reputation as an especially difficult game. Now, there is a level select code that can come in very handy if, for example, you are recording footage for a YouTube video. Just power the system off, press and hold left, down, and 1, then turn the system on and press run. But if you're doing it properly, you need to get through the whole game on the few balloons you have. There are a few power-ups scattered among the levels. These are hidden in green boxes that you have to shoot open, and these boxes always contain the same power-up. The stages are short enough, and power-ups are so rare. The most common items are the colored orbs that affect your bubbles. Blue orbs turn every shot into a max power one. Green orbs give you a 3-way shot, and purple orbs make you run faster. Boots make Alice jump much higher, which might help you avoid some shots, but I found it makes the platforming a lot trickier. The rabbit will make you invincible for a few seconds, and balloons are essentially extra lives. The bosses in Märchen Maze tend to be pretty vicious, and most of them have some kind of gimmick to overcome. Like for this one, you have to shoot out all of the discs that support him. It's a variation on a Japanese children's game. And this boss will appear in 3 places, but only the one shooting a different colored bullet is real. To be honest, I found these knights to be a lot harder than the bosses. They come in a large quantity, they shoot a lot, and they jump constantly, which becomes a problem because you can only hit them when they're on the ground. This is a case where switching to rapid fire was the better choice. Japanese PC Engine fans seem to regard Märchen Maze pretty well, though they are quick to acknowledge the high degree of difficulty here. I found quite a few people saying they couldn't beat this when they were kids. My own personal feelings on Märchen Maze is that it's a pretty good game. I think it's the kind of game that you have to play slowly and deliberately. If you dash through stages, you're probably going to struggle a lot more than if you take your time. And I think the stages are a little bit lopsided. Some of them are much longer than others, although the shortest one was the ice stage, which I can't really complain too much about cutting that one off. Still, this is a pretty solid take on the run-and-gun genre. I don't think it's Namco's best PC Engine game, but it is one of their better ones.